What's up? I know it's been a minute since I've checked in and whatnot, but I'm checking in now, and it's been a long time coming, and yeah, I'm here now. I've gotten a lot of emails, I've gotten a lot of messages, I've gotten a lot of just questions asking me about what my stance is right now, and on everything. Not only the lockdown and the pandemic, but also on George Floyd and what I think about Black Lives Matter, and even my how I was raised, because I wasn't raised necessarily. I was raised basically in a way to where I have a different perspective, I guess what I'm trying to say. But if you stick around, you'll understand what I mean when I explain it. Let's see. All right. I'm here. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to do something real quick. There we go. There we go. And we're here. There we go. So, anyway, sorry. Just answering questions and things like that, letting people know that I'm live right now. Before we get started, I just want to do a shameless plug right now. Not shameless plug, but it's you got to invest in yourself, right? And so that's what I'm going to do. This is brought to you by Dwayne Johnson's Photography, which is me. I do photography. I do a lot of things in life, man. I do photography. I write. I sing. I just do a lot of different things. But for photography needs, just Facebook.com/Dwayne Johnson's Photography. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now because there's a lot that I want to get to and talk about on this, on the post. And so, what's going on, Deuce? What's going on, baby? I know you just got in here, so I will repeat what I'm going over. Basically, I'm just going to be going over a lot of different events that's been going on over the last week, last 2 weeks, and last couple months, and my take on it, because I'm getting bombarded with messages from people asking me what my stance is. So, you're out working right now. Right on, my man. That's one hard-working dude, man. Y'all check out my dude, THIER. THIER 1979, I do believe, on his Twitch. He does three-dimensional animation. He's doing a short movie right now, and it's all he pretty much streams every night, and the boy is talented, amongst many other things. But go check him out. He has tons of social media stuff, but check him out. But getting back to what I was doing, or what I was talking about, is people want to know my stance on what's going on in the world pretty much the last couple months. And before I get into kind of my life story on why I have the opinions that I do, there's some things I kind of want to bring up, just in case if you guys didn't, if you didn't hear them, if you didn't see the video or hear about the video and you didn't see it, or both, you didn't hear it or see it. I also want to just real quick go over, because my other podcast friends, we all follow different types of podcasts and things like that. And our podcast is down right now, but it's going to be back up very, very shortly. New studio and everything like that. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, so shout out to Joe Rogan and his deal with Spotify. A lot of people are angry. A lot of people are mad. A lot of people are calling him a sellout and all this other stuff. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with him making a smart business decision. You can still listen to him on Spotify. I don't think you have to subscribe to it to listen to him or anything like that. It's easier, yeah, on YouTube and all that, but he's doing what is best for him and his family. So shout out to Mr. Rogan for doing what you do, man. We appreciate it. So yeah, that's kind of my little stance on that. And but what I want to get to real quick is, because I've been asked about it constantly, and the whole Black Lives Matter things. There's a couple things that I want you guys to watch first. And I don't own any of the rights to these videos or anything like that, but I do feel that it's very important to see them if you haven't. So this is from Killer Mike.
I didn't want to come, and I don't want to be here. I'm the son of an Atlanta City police officer. My cousin is an Atlanta City police officer, and my other cousin, East Point police officer. And I got a lot of love and respect for police officers, down to the original 8 police officers in Atlanta that even after becoming police had to dress in a YMCA because white officers didn't want to get dressed with niggers. And here we are 80 years later. I watched a white officer assassinate a black man. And I know that tore your heart out. And I know it's crippling. And I have nothing positive to say in this moment, because I don't want to be here. But I'm responsible to be here because it wasn't just Dr. King and people dressed nicely who marched and protested to progress this city and so many other cities. It was people like my grandmother, people like my aunts and uncles who were members of SCLC and NAACP, and in particular, Reverend James Orange, Mrs. Alice Johnson, and Reverend Love, who we just lost last year. So I'm duty-bound to be here to simply say that it is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization. And now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. It is time to beat up prosecutors you don't like at the voting booth. It is time to hold mayoral offices accountable, chiefs and deputy chiefs. Atlanta is not perfect, but we're a lot better than we ever were, and we're a lot better than cities are. I'm mad as hell. I woke up wanting to see the world burn down yesterday because I'm tired of seeing black men die. He casually put his knee on a human being's neck for 9 minutes as he died like a zebra in the clutch of a lion's jaw. And we watch it like murder porn over and over again. So that's why children are burning to the ground. They don't know what else to do. And it is the responsibility of us to make this better right now.
Now listen. How crazy is that it's 2020? Y'all, it's 2020. And we're still dealing with stuff like this. It's crazy. It boggles my mind because it's like, it's 2020, y'all. 2020. You know what I'm saying? It's it blows my mind. Yes, we're in different times, we're in different circumstances, but it's a different, there's people say there's no slavery. Yes, it's a different type of slavery nowadays, and there still is slavery going on, Don't get it twisted. There still is slavery going on in certain cultures and certain places and things like that. But it's just it's different. You know what I mean? It's different. And then I get hit up by people who, when you tell them, you know, Black Lives Matter, and then they say, well, all lives matter. Now, that's either going to offend some people and get them like pretty pissed off, or it's still going to offend people, but they're going to have the wherewithal to say, they'll have the wherewithal to think, okay, this person just lacks education. So you necessarily can't get mad at somebody for what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And a lot of this hate and all this stuff that's coming out is generational. Okay? It's generational. It's taught. That's what it is. So I'm going to give you an example. And this is just my opinion. Sean says it's insane. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. It hurts to watch Killer Mike, who actually, his mom said, could they just call you Michael on TV, please? So, and out of respect for your mama, I get it. Michael, who was giving that speech, he loves Atlanta. He's one of the faces of Atlanta as far as, you know, what he does and represents for his music and all that kind of stuff. So, that's emotional for him, man. And that's an emotional person, because his art, his emotions, obviously, you know, he's an artist, so he gets it out in his music, but he didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? Because we shouldn't have to be making those types of speeches in 2020, man. It's 2020, y'all. It's, it blows me away. But for those people, like I said, for those people who want to know, well, what's wrong with saying all lives matter? We know all lives matter. This is obviously, yes, all lives matter, but not all lives are going through what the black community is going through. So yes, all lives matter. Obviously, we know this. But let me give you one of the reasons why it annoys people when you say that. Okay? Check this out.
Welcome back. I wanted to take a moment to answer a viewer email we got tonight. Heidi says, can anyone please tell me what this trend of thinking is all about? When a person can't say all lives matter, all lives do matter, don't they? Well, Heidi, of course, all lives are supposed to matter, and given that very truth, that also means Black lives matter. But I have to tell you, it certainly doesn't feel that way. I've worked hard to get here. I went to good schools, got good grades, tried to do good in the world, never been arrested. But it's scary when I read headlines like this in a major newspaper. Getting killed by police, a leading cause of death for young black men in America. I'm 34 years old, and it doesn't feel like all lives matter. When I know I've spent my entire life smiling and doing everything I can to somehow account for the fact that I'm a dark-skinned black male. To make people feel at ease that I'm not a threat. It doesn't feel like all lives matter when folks who look like me are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white people, according to
that's according to
a study conducted by Rutgers University School of Criminal Justice.
So now when he said that he came into where he feels he has to put on a smile and let everybody know it's okay to be around him, I feel that at times when I go to certain places, but I'm so used to it that I don't get offended because I understand some of the places I go to, again, it's generational. So they don't know. In fact, they don't know how to act. And, you know, I'm a pretty big guy or whatever. And so usually I intimidate people on two factors. Because I'm black and because I'm a big guy, people automatically get uncomfortable in certain areas of places that I go to until they get to know me. But again, I also think that that comes from my background as well, and how I was raised and who I was raised by, and things like that, and how I personally grew up. So, but again, we'll get into that. But I'm gonna let this man finish, just so you guys can understand why when people say that, why it's annoying. Now, I'm not saying it annoys me, because obviously it doesn't annoy me, because I know all lives matter and I get it. And for some people it might be hard. It's a hard time to understand, and they want it. You know how when someone puts their foot in their mouth and they don't mean to because their intention is good? Sometimes it's what happens in situations like this, where people they do have your back, and they do want to support. They just don't know how. You can't get offended at someone who doesn't know how to support. Yeah, they need to do research and all that kind of stuff, but let them know this is what you would like from them so they can support when they try to. Now, that's not saying that the people that just don't care and don't want to support. I'm just saying for the people that want to support and don't know how, sometimes you have to let them know, because they don't know what they don't know, if that makes sense. People are saying all lives matter are ignorant to the fact of what black people have gone through. Yes, absolutely. And you're a smart guy, and see these things is what make you. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. I just now, when someone knows better and they know right from wrong and they still choose to be against it, then that's different. That's when that's racism. That's different, because they know better, but they still choose to be that way. And part of that, again, I believe is generational. But anyway, I'm gonna let this man finish.
Doesn't feel like all lives matter when a man who looks like me can be killed by police over $20. It's beyond disturbing.
Please, I can't breathe.
Now, for anybody who hasn't seen this yet, hold on. For anybody who hasn't seen this yet, or you have seen it and it's too disturbing, it's only for about 15 seconds, I think, in this particular recording, for the page that I'm on. But just, if you haven't seen it and you don't want to see it, look away. If you have seen it and it disturbs you and you don't want to watch it, look away at this time. But it's murder in plain daylight, and it's absolutely disgusting. And there's a different view as well. If you guys seen the other one of the other two cops that you can't see here in this view, they're on his legs, and yeah, and they caught all three of them, and they all got arrested, which is awesome. And a lot of people say, well, why are you still rioting and things like that? Even though you shouldn't tear up your own communities, this happens too much, and they've had enough. So I understand. I can empathize. I can empathize. But anyway.
Please, man. Please, somebody help me.
It doesn't feel like all lives matter when a plea for help is ignored by the very people sworn to protect and serve. And the sad thing is, this is not the first time this has happened. Practically every year it happens again. And so people from all walks of life and all races and backgrounds have joined a movement to remind folks Black lives matter. Responding to that cry for justice, that cry for equality with all lives matter, is like saying things are already equal, things are already just, and we know that ain't true. Sure, we've come a long way. I'm here tonight all the way from Birmingham, Alabama, once known as Bombingham, because of the many people who stood up and cried and prayed and marched for a better day. Well, guess what? The march toward better continues in communities all across this country with one simple message: Black lives matter.
There it is. And for people that don't quite understand, watch it again, and soak it in. And I'm not saying watch it again as a smartass. I'm saying watch it again and try to understand. Try to understand where someone else is coming from. Okay, that whole saying of, well, you can't really judge somebody until you walked a mile in their shoes. There's a lot of people that feel you couldn't walk a mile in a black person's shoes, that feels so strongly about this subject here. But who knows? They're just try to see things from both angles, right? it's hard to have an opinion. Well, when you make opinions on certain things, this is what you should do. You should get as much information about the subject so you can make an informed decision on really what your opinion is. You can't really talk too much about a subject if you don't really know about it. Like, you can have your opinion on it and things like that, but they're not educated opinions because you don't really know about the subject until you studied it. Now, when you study it and you have an opinion, now you can talk about why you have that opinion because you have the information, right? So anyway, I'm a nerd like that, but that's how you should do it. And so the whole Black Lives Matter, why doesn't all lives matter? Yes, we already know this. We know this, but not all lives are going through what we're going through. So that's the point. So for the people that get mad at that, pump your brakes a little bit. I understand the frustration. I get it. But remember, sometimes people don't know what they don't know. Now, the ones that are just asking that just to be assholes and just to kind of stir the pot, yeah, they're assholes. And there's different ways to handle that. But, so now going to movie stars that are inputting their opinion on stuff. One of my favorite football players, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this because it was a few days ago, but Drew Brees used his platform to kind of say his stance on the kneeling thing, the American flag, which is not what it was about in the first place. It got hijacked. But anyway, about the whole Black Lives Matter and the flag and all this other stuff. And so this is from Shannon, Sharpe, and of course Skip Bayless, and Jenny is the host of the show, and it's undisputed, and I watch it every morning, and I thought this was going to be pretty, I thought this was going to be pretty cool for everybody to watch along with me. And again, I don't own the rights to this, because for all the people that are watching it live, thank you, I appreciate you. For people that are watching this on YouTube, I have to say that so I don't get in trouble or whatever. They'll probably take this down anyway, but I don't own the rights to this. I will put all the credits in the description and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, here y'all go.
Until something happened yesterday, and that is some controversial comments that we heard from Drew Brees, and I'm going to get right into it. In an interview with Yahoo Finance, Drew Brees said he could, quote, never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America. Brees said he stands with his teammates for their fight for equality, but also that he stands with family members who have served in the military. Brees was heavily criticized by many athletes, including teammates Michael Thomas and Malcolm Jenkins. Drew Brees did issue an apology this morning on Instagram. Shannon, your thoughts? Are you surprised by this? What's your reaction?
No, and what's made the black fight so hard is people like Drew Brees, Skip, because if you can't get a guy that grew up with blacks in the locker room, from pee-wee to high school to college to the NFL, to understand the black man's plight, who will? What about guys that's not around blacks on a daily basis, that have not been around blacks on a daily basis like Drew Brees? Drew Brees said something, Skip, that I found insulting, to be quite honest with you. He said, my grandfathers fought in World War II. I did not know two men won World War II, Skip. They should be commended. But did he know that black men fought alongside his grandfather in World War II, although in segregated militaries? Skip, they were fighting in a foreign land for a freedom that when they came home, they did not enjoy like Drew Brees' grandfathers did. Did Drew know that black men that wore military, when they came home, that were caught in their military uniforms, a lot of times were beaten, jailed, and even killed? Does he realize that, Skip, that every war that's ever been fought in American history, black men have fought valiantly in that war? In the Revolutionary War, Skip, they said the blacks were fighting for their master's freedom, freedoms that they were not going to get, even though they were told, if you pick up arms and fight alongside us, upon you returning, you could gain your freedom. When they came back home, Skip, guess what? They were enslaved again. And some the reason, and a lot of reasons, Skip, George Washington signed the Military Act in 1792 saying blacks couldn't join the military.
Yep.
They fought so well, and some of the officers said they fought so well and valiantly, he took it out. But guess what the British did? British says, if you run away and fight with us, we'll give you your freedom. And immediately George Washington rescinded the order. I can't believe you, Drew. What would make you think at this moment, Skip, 8-9 days after George Floyd had lost his life, you would bring up the military and the flag again, Skip? I told you, Skip, if you want to talk about B, and I don't want to talk about B, I'm going to talk about C, I'm going to talk about D, I'm going to talk about everything except what you want to talk about, because that's an issue I do not want to face. Drew, blacks fought in World War II alongside your grandfather and did not have the freedoms that they had when they came home, Skip, although they had sacrificed the exact same thing as his grandfathers did. So let me get this straight, Skip. I sacrifice as much as you do in a foreign land fighting for freedom for people that when I get home, I don't get. And Drew's like, that flag means so much. Drew, do you realize, think about the black man, that flag, for 250 years in slavery, another 150 years of 100 years of Jim Crow. And so you automatically assume that a black man should feel the same pride for the flag as you and your grandfathers? Skip, that's what makes me upset, Skip, is that some think that only whites served in the military. Man, that flag means so much. My grandfather, my great-grandfather. I guarantee you, if you poll some players in the NFL, they have grandfathers or great-grandfathers that served in World War II and World War I. Skip, this is what was said. In August of 1917, there was a senator from Missouri named James Vardaman, and he warned that once a black soldier was allowed to see himself as an American hero, it was one step to the conclusion that his political rights must be respected. Bringing black soldiers home to the South with the expectation of equality, he predicted, would inevitably lead to disaster. He said black soldiers as potential community leaders would be terrifying and a disaster and would be a mass movement for the African-American rights. Even though they went overseas to fight for freedoms, when they came home, they were not to enjoy that. And Drew Brees still doesn't seem to get it. Now, he issued an apology, Skip, but it's meaningless because the guys know that he spoke his heart the very first time around.
Correct.
Now, I don't know what Drew's going to do, but he probably should just go ahead and retire now. It will never be the same. Take it from a guy that's been a leader in a locker room for a number of years. At every step, Skip, I've been the leader in the locker room. What he said, they go like, oh, yeah, no, they will never look at him the same. Because he spoke his heart and Skip, and what he said, it wasn't what he said, it's how he said it. He was defiant. I will never respect the man. Even after all this, nobody had even mentioned the flag. He brought that up on his own. Drew, I don't know what you was thinking. I don't know what you hoped to accomplish. But whatever you hoped to accomplish, it failed miserably. Black people have been fighting for this country, even though they did not get the rights that the flag said. That flag that Skip, I thought the flag meant something. See, I get the flag, the cloth that wave in the wind as the wind blows, but it means something. It's supposed to mean something. It's supposed to mean everything for all people, freedoms, liberties. But if the black man doesn't have the same freedoms and liberty as the white, what good is the flag? And Drew thinks that, well, I got me, that's what it means to me. I feel a sense of pride, a sense of honor. Everybody doesn't feel like that, Drew, because it hadn't represented them in the exact same way.
Now, for those of you who don't watch Skip and Shannon or Undisputed in the mornings or whatever, usually there's football or basketball getting ready to come on or whatever, and they're talking about what's going on, right? So Skip, anytime he get ready to say something like, for real, he always, and he's, but he makes it clear that he doesn't try to put himself, I'll let him speak.
I hear every word you just spoke. And once again, your words are so real and so raw and so genuine and authentic that it gives me chills over here on this side. And back to Jenny's question about my level of surprise, I was not surprised by his apology And I also was not surprised by what he said yesterday. And I am with you. I believe Drew Brees showed you his true colors yesterday. And I'm not going to completely condemn him as a bad man.
No.
He's not a bad man. But he's not ignorant. He's not unaware of all that has gone on.
It's called willful ignorance.
Yeah, it's willful. But it's what to me, it's just willful insensitivity. And he did admit to being insensitive in his apology. But let's look harder at Drew Brees, shall we? He is a staunch Republican. He is arch conservative. His father was a prominent trial lawyer in Austin, Texas, and Drew grew up in an affluent community in Austin. His mother was also an attorney, successful attorney. And as you point out, and that he loves to point out, both his grandfathers served in World War II, and one fought in the Battle of Okinawa. That is what he is at the utmost proud of. Drew Brees is blindly about God and country. God and country. He can't see past his view of God and country.
Correct.
And he always talks about what he calls the 4 F's: faith, family, football, and this is a PHF, philanthropy.
Right.
And to his credit, he has given lots of money to the Katrina cause, obviously, in New Orleans. He's given a lot of his time to charity. We know that.
Right.
And Drew Brees has been, and I'm going to underline has been, one of the most popular quarterbacks in the history of this league.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
I believe he has been.
100.
Skip, and if I'm not mistaken, he won NFL Walter Payton
He
Man of the
did.
Year.
2006. It's been a while, but he did win that award.
Yes.
Okay? We get that. But now we get to, I think he was asked a question. I could be wrong about this because I kept seeing his answer, but I'm not exactly sure of the question.
Right.
But I think the original question was about how would you feel if players this coming season resurrected what Colin Kaepernick obviously started 4 years ago, was the pioneer trailblazer in all
Right.
this. He decided first to sit for the anthem, then to kneel for the anthem.
Correct.
How would you feel, Drew Brees? And he gave the answer that hit all your hottest buttons, which is, I will never, that was the word he used, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America. So what he's telling you is that he feels just as strongly about disrespecting the flag as the black community feels about the murderous disrespect with which you have been treated for hundreds of years, or at least this century, by policemen in this country.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So to me, a Drew Brees who has always been so careful about saying and doing exactly the right thing, so conscious of public relations, that he feels so staunchly and strongly about the flag, it unifies all of us. Drew, the black community is crying out for help.
Right.
And he steps into the breach of what is happening before our very eyes. I believe much of white America just got woke. I do. I do. I'm seeing an outpouring of younger white Americans at the protests.
Yes.
I'm still watching the protests, most of them, the ones here in Southern California yesterday, and you keep using the word droves. They are coming out more in bigger droves and bigger droves.
Yes.
And I'm seeing more and more younger white people right there with their black brothers and sisters. They're trying. They're trying. They're saying, we're here for you. Now, what can we do? Well, eyes and ears are as open. Help me out. But I think they're as open as they've ever been from younger white America, right?
I believe so.
So we're traveling, we're getting, it's 2020 and we're still fighting this fight. But baby steps, half a baby step, a quarter baby step, it don't matter. What Skip just said is the younger generation. That's what shows promise to me. The younger generation of people that don't look like me are fighting for people that do look like me, and they're supporting people that do look like me. So eventually, over generations of time, I do believe that racism, although I don't think it'll ever go away, I think it'll just go into hiding until all the old generations that think that way eventually, I don't know, end up somewhere else, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy. It's super crazy. And then on the same show, there's this kid. There's the NFL draft for all my sports heads out there. There's the NFL draft, and this kid works my damn nerves. Jake Fromm, and at State Farm. That's the only way I remember his name is State Farm. Jake Fromm sounds like a privileged boy, and anywhere he goes, I don't care what his apology is. Like Skip says, let me tell you the story about this dude, okay? This guy, first of all, Jake Fromm, you get major boos from me, dog. Major boos from me. Congratulations for getting drafted in the NFL. That's awesome and everything. I'm not going to dog your profession. But for those of you who don't know who Jake Fromm is, let me introduce you to Mr. Jake Fromm.
Bills rookie quarterback Jake Fromm apologized for a text from 2019 that was released about guns. Fromm said that they should be expensive so that, quote, only elite white people can get them.
That's right. They should be expensive so only elite white people could get them. Talking about firearms. That's the Buffalo Bills' future quarterback right there.
Shannon, what was your reaction when you heard about this text that was released?
Not surprising. But Skip, isn't this the crux of the argument that blacks have been trying to make? This is textbook definition of racism, is that he thinks he's entitled to something solely based on the color of his skin. That's what racism is. That's it in a nutshell. If you look up, go to the dictionary and look up racism. He just defined it, laid it out for you. I'm entitled to something that you're not because the color of my skin. And that's how it's been since the inception, since we first landed here, brought here in 1619.
Daryl Davis.
You lower
Absolutely.
than I am because you're darker than me. You're black, I'm white, I'm better. I'm smarter. That's it. Skip, I believe over the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a lot of this stuff start to spill out.
Agreed.
I think, and remember, Skip, I told you 3 people to tell you the truth. Drunks, kids, and angry people. Now, somebody was angry. This is a text message. This is not something that was disseminated on social media.
Yep.
So somebody got upset. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, I got you. I got something for you. And that's what happened. Mm. And you don't really want to. Skip, I'll be the first to admit, I've always been a fairly good athlete, but I've really never thought that I was better than someone because I was black. I thought I was better than you because of my talents. I thought I was better than you because I worked hard. I don't automatically assume anything. And I've been very fortunate, and I think that has a lot to do with how my grandmother brought us up. But to think you are entitled to or you're better than based solely on the color of your skin, right. And he wants to go. So blacks ain't got no Second Amendment rights, Skip. So see, again, there are certain things that should be only applicable to them. Mm-hmm. The Second Amendment, I thought the Second Amendment right said I have the right to bear arms, but I think they were talking about the military, but that's neither here nor there. Says I have the right to bear arms. So it didn't say nothing about the color of your skin. But he believes and racism exists in systemic because of this. So I'm glad he got caught up. I mean, people say a lot of things, and then behind closed doors is totally different. I saw where an Oregon State player, incoming freshman, if I'm not mistaken, got kicked off the team for some of his rhetoric. It's going to start to spill out, and I think, Skip, we might be surprised of some of the people that might be engulfed in something similar, very similar to this.
So you mentioned somebody got angry enough to leak this, to expose this. So let's go deeper into that, because for me, this is a whole new development, a whole nother level that this country is experiencing right now that in my lifetime I have never, ever seen. So this text was leaked onto Twitter by a female acquaintance, I don't know exactly what their relationship was, of Jake Fromm's at Georgia last year.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a girlfriend or just a friend. Not sure about that. But she posted the text that was obviously private between the two of them. And what happened was that she also posted another text exchange with another friend of theirs who texted, Jake has called me 3 times. Please take down what you just posted because he's in trouble over it. And she said, I can't. It's not right. And she went on to explain, female acquaintance, and by the way, obviously white of Jake Fromm. I don't want to see him go down, but I know part of helping the cause on my end is to call out things like this.
Right.
And if anything, I don't think he'll get fired, but I think he might have to make a statement, which would be good. Well, he obviously, he had to make a big statement, big apology, right?
Yes.
So everybody out there, think with me about this.
Hey, what's going on?
A white female acquaintance, look back at her text messages, one that's stuck in her cross, stuck in her psyche from last year. And she said, and I looked at her Twitter site last night. She is on fire with outrage over George Floyd. So she's so caught up in this cause, the black community's cause, that she finally decided, I can't stay silent on this. I'm going to expose what he texted me last year.
Right.
So basically, what I'm doing for anybody who just joined, I get emails, messages, DMs, whatever, on my stance on what's going on as far back as Joe Rogan's new deal with Spotify, to George Floyd, to kneeling, to my own story, which my life story is a little bit different, and I have a little different perspective on both ends. And so I'm just making this right now so I can explain this to everybody all at once. And that's it. This is what I think. This is my opinion. After I get through what I want to get through. So of course I also watch like Inside the NBA, because I'm an NBA fan as well, and for anybody who watches it, you know there's Shaq, Kenny, Charles, and then Ernie Johnson, and their stance on, what they think as well. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but I think it's pretty interesting. Of course, I'm not going to play the whole video because it's like 13 minutes unless y'all want to, and then once we get past this and I explain kind of my view of everything, we'll get back to what this channel is really, just happy stuff, happy news stuff, or just, we talk about whatever, but I just want to give my opinion on, on this so I can get it out of the way and get it over with. And yeah. So here it is inside the NBA, guys.
It is something we do without thinking. We breathe somewhere around 23,000 times a day. We find ourselves taking it for granted. Over the last few months, we have been witnesses to what happens when breathing becomes a labor, when a worldwide virus takes away the very action that sustains life, and the result is death in catastrophic numbers.
I can breathe. Please, the name of it.
But on May 25th, one man, George Floyd, found this most basic of daily actions, breathing, impossible, struggling in vain against the pressure of a police officer's knee. The incident was horrific. It has breathed new life into age-old struggles against racism and excessive force. And in the time it takes to simply inhale and exhale, our attention was taken away from COVID-19 and social distancing the desire for the normal we once knew, the return of things like sports, to a more essential and pressing issue, the quest for justice, understanding, compassion, and equality. Conversations that cannot wait as we live and breathe.
And I'd like to say I don't own any rights to the video. This all belongs
I'll look inside
to
Atlanta's Studio J.
Studio
where we
J in
normally
Atlanta.
do Inside the NBA, but we will not be doing that inside that studio as the pandemic continues. Instead, we make do as we have been doing for months now, doing television remotely. This is Ernie Johnson coming to you from Brazelton, Georgia, about 45 minutes north of the city of Atlanta. We do have some NBA news to talk about tonight in the next hour. It appears the league has a pathway to resume play. We'll get into that with Adam Silver, the commissioner. But we are living in a time now where what we need to speak about, conversations that are difficult but are necessary, because on this day, on this Thursday, George Floyd's memorial was held today in Minneapolis. This plague of racism, which comes at the same time as this pandemic, demands our attention. And we will do that over the next 60 minutes.
Now, of course, I'm not going to
Charles
play
Barkley,
all
Shaquille
60
O'Neal,
minutes, y'all. Just
Kenny Smith.
a few excerpts.
We have not been together on TNT since play was suspended by the NBA. I miss seeing you guys. It's good to see you, even this way tonight. And I know that we all want to share what we are feeling inside at a time like this. And that's what we'll do as we start the show. And in no particular order. Kenny Smith, tell me what is in your heart and what's in your head right now.
Well, probably the first thing is George Floyd and his family. We want to send our condolences out to friends, family that are immediate with him. And also condolences to a community of people and a community of around the world who are going through this horrific time of the scab of racism being pulled off, the Band-Aid being pulled off and being obviously seen. For me, I'm a little bit distraught, and at the same time, I'm encouraged that everyone now sees what we have seen as an African-American young man from Queens, New York, have seen my whole life. I've been afforded some privileges because I've been a first-team All-American. I've been a college basketball All-American, Player of the Year, NBA champion. But at the core of that, I've always been a Black American, a Black person. And I know what those difficulties have been. And before I even get into maybe some solutions, I always realized, Ernie, I said, the reason that I was probably able to be as resilient as I probably have been is because I always had success. So success would always make me think, well, I don't have to deal with that then. I'm not going to deal with that because I'm moving on. I'm going to the University of North Carolina. I'm not going to worry about this guy. I'm going to worry about this Karen, so to speak, because I've had success. And when I got to the NBA, I had more success. So then I was like, oh, I'm not going to worry about that. That's happening to me because I'm having success. But imagine if you're 50, 55 years old and you didn't have the success I had and you had to deal with that. You were making $25,000, $30,000 a year. That's what you're seeing now. And I'm glad in a way that America is seeing close and up front the systematic racism that has been apparent to us for a long time.
Charles Barkley.
Ernie, it's stressful being a Black man. It's stressful being a Black man. You know, I'm sitting at my house a month ago, and a young black man is out for a jog and he gets shot and killed.
I agree with you,
Like,
Sean. They should have
white
put
folks
this
don't
out
have to deal with
a
that
long
every
time
day.
ago.
This kid is out for a jog and his life is over. 2 weeks later in New York City, a black man is bird watching. He asked politely to a white woman, please put your dog on a leash. She goes off on a tangent. I'm gonna call the police and saying I'm harassed by a black man in the park. These are things that black people have to deal with. Now, let's get to Mr. Floyd. We're all at our house, minding our own business, and you turn on the television and you see a cop who has his knee on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 42 seconds. You're minding your own business. These are 3 examples of people who were harassed and killed for no other reason, and the fact that they were black. That's it, Ernie. They were black. These people were trying to live their life in a positive way, and 2 of them got killed just for being black. 1 got harassed for being black, and you just get sick and tired. Like we're still dealing. I mean, think about this. We're trying to deal with the pandemic, which has had a horrific effect on black people in general. But now you factor in people trying to fight the pandemic, mind their own business. Two of them ended up dead, and 1 gets harassed on camera. It's just tiring being black all the time because it's something all the time. You never get to relax.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq Diesel.
And Shaq, before you start, let me point out, we are having technically, it's called a lip sync problem. Not matching up with, as you hear our words, we're aware of that, working on it. We'll try to remedy it. If nothing else, listen to the message and not the technical problem. Now, Shaq, go ahead.
I like to look at quotes. And one of my favorite quotes is by Malcolm X. You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace until he or she has freedom. This is all we've been asking for 401 years. Freedom, equal rights. And a lot of times it's been pushed under the rug. And, what's been happening in the past 6 months has already been, actually 5 months, not even 6 months yet, it's already been horrific. You got 40 million people out of jobs, pandemic, a virus that came out of nowhere, the loss of Kobe. Charles mentioned the young brother that was jogging, and then Floyd. So to a lot of police officers, my good friend Art Acevedo out of Houston, who by the way did a great job of bringing the city together. That technique is not a technique that they teach in any academy. And the other guys, one of the guys, because always talk about good cops, bad cops. A good cop is one that can tell his brother, hey, that's not the right technique. A good cop is the one that can say, don't write that down on the form. It's not true. We don't want to get charged with perjury. I've never seen that. A guy have his knee on another man's neck for 8 minutes. I was impressed that, everybody came together. This is the first time that I've seen rides that were meant for us. You had a lot of white people there. I was around and, the Rodney King, and it only happened in LA. But as I'm watching the news now, Paris, Newark, New Jersey, New York, Minnesota. And as Kenny said previously, people are finally seeing what we've been seeing all our life. I'm from the projects of Newark, New Jersey. I've seen it. I've seen it in San Antonio amongst Latinos also. I've seen it in Baton Rouge. This is something that we see all the time. And it's 2020. You would think in 2020 things would have started to get better.
Right? What did I say earlier? That's exactly what I said earlier. I said it's 2020, y'all, and you'd think at this point in time, you know, let's see, Sean says, for years I've wondered why people haven't started attacking cops that have done these things. I think cops might start thinking twice as the general public is sick of this finally, and I hope people will take action only when necessary. Well, I believe that, I truly believe that it's heading that way, man. People, I mean, we've had enough, bro. People, we've had enough. And, you know, one good thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the photos or anything like that, but a lot of the police force, they're taking a knee in front of these people that are protesting, and they're asking, how can we help? And I think we need to see more of that than anything else. And I think that they don't show what they should be showing when it comes to things like that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They felt helpless. And for those of you, again, watching this on YouTube later on, not live, I'm on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/ the D Johnson. And you can watch this live, and you can type in questions and you know, all that kind of stuff. So you're watching this on YouTube, and every once in a while you see me looking down here. I'm looking at the message or the comments and replying back to them or whatnot. But again, now what I said at the beginning of the of this whole stream right here is one of the things that that I'm an owner operator of is Dwayne Johnson's Photography. And if you guys are looking for any kind of photography, well, not any kind, but family portraits, couples, maternity shots, I only accept a certain amount of weddings a year, because I like to give weddings all my attention. But my photography, if you've ever seen my photography, and what I'm looking at right now is I'm getting ready to set the screen up on one of my senior shoots, because even though we have a lot going on with the pandemic and there's schools that are not, most of the schools around where we live anyway, they're not in. And seniors that are graduating this year, they don't get to walk and across the stage or whatever and get senior pictures. And so I have a deal going on Dwayne Johnson's Photography. You can go there on Facebook, facebook.com/ Dwayne Johnson's Photography. So this is some of my photography here. It's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, those are photoshopped, and they're not photoshopped. It's the type of photography I do. Not a lot of people around here do those types of photographies, do the type of photography that I do. So this is down at the waterfront, downtown Vancouver, where we live. This is a senior shoot that I've done. And yeah, it's the type of photography. Once you know how, for one, how light works, and you understand lenses and how to use those lenses, and you understand aperture and all this nerdy stuff, which is very interesting and awesome, and you learn lighting. This is the type of photography you can do without having apps and filters and things like that. You actually go outside and do all this stuff, and all the filters and things that people like to use all the time. You don't have to use them. You just figure out how light works, figure out your camera, and blend natural light with artificial light or whatever. And yeah, so this is the type of photography and stuff that I do. Head on over to Dwayne Johnson's Photography on Facebook. Look it up. You'll be glad you did. And yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I do. Anyway, so as promised, I was going to tell you a little bit about my background and the view that I have on Black Lives Matter and that type of stuff. So I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida. And thanks, man. I appreciate it. Sean says, great work on the photography and stuff like that. And, I definitely appreciate it, man. Thank you very, very much. And in fact, when I got started in it, I bought my camera from the camera that was mine that I started out doing this photography with, is my main man, Sean, who once again, you can go to his page. He does 3D. He's making a 3D movie right now, but he's actually making everything in the movie. It's very interesting. Check him out on Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Deuce I Ray 1979, I do believe. Check him out. He's awesome. There's a lot of things, man, that you can do to make yourself valuable. Now, through this whole pandemic, that reminds me, smaller businesses that actually have places that you go to, maybe it's a cookie store or whatever, they're getting vandalized through all this protest stuff, and I don't agree with that type of stuff. Like, don't tear up your own community. That video of Killer Mike later on, which I should have finished it, but he says, you know, you don't want to tear up your own community. He says it's time to plot, think about what you want to do, think about a way to do it, and then execute in the smart way. Go fill out your census so you have a voice. They know that you're here. They know that you're in the state that you live in. Call out the mayors, or call out the governors, or call out the political people in your area and vote better people in there. We have to start taking a stand, you know, educate your kids on stuff. Let them know what's going on. And then, you know, you can find your way. So anyway, so my story is a little bit different in the simple fact of, and again, this is why I have the view that I have, is I was raised by a white guy. I was raised by a white man. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. But I was raised in Washington State most of my life, going back and forth, you know, a few times. And I grew up in a predominantly white area, and I went to a predominantly white school. And so one day in third grade, this is how, because kids don't see color. They don't care. Like, if you go to a playground and you see kids running around, they're all just playing together because they all just want to build sandcastles or go on a slide or swing or whatever. And so I'm in third grade, and there's a gentleman, a new kid in class, you know, and you're already nervous. You're in third grade, you're going to a new class, you don't know nobody. And this kid walked in, and the teacher told him that, she's like, welcome to the class, you know, and the only seat that was available was a seat next to me, right? And so I grew up being taught that everybody is fine. There's nothing wrong with anybody. Nobody's above anybody, anything like that. So, like I said, when I seen him, I was like, oh, this is a new person in class. I'm going to get to know him. And anyway, so the only seat that was available was next to me, and he wouldn't sit next to me. And I remember he stared at me because I was staring at him, but not staring at him like, what are you doing? I was staring at him like anticipation of I was going to tell him who I was and who he was and all this other stuff. And anyway, he wouldn't sit next to me. And I was like, as a kid, you don't know why or whatever. So he walked out of the class. He started crying and walked out of the class. And then we went to recess or whatever. Well, I asked the teacher why he didn't want to sit next to me. And she was just like, and Mrs. Andrews, shout out to my third grade teacher, Mrs. Andrews. He was probably also nervous by her after she said this. I started putting two and two together, but she was my only black teacher I ever had, was in third grade. Mrs. Andrews, shout out to you. Anyway, she said that there are some kids in this world that are just taught differently than others. And I was like, oh, okay. But then as I got older, I grew up always one of those how, what, and why kids. And so I was always like, well, how come? Well, why? I was like that kid until people got hella annoyed and they just say, because. Now go sit down. And over time, I realized what that meant. But at the time, I you're a kid. You don't think that way. So here I am in third grade. I walk home to school because back then that's what you could do. I walked home to school. Now here I am, a third grader, and I have to ask this man who raised me, who's white, and I'm obviously not. This kid wouldn't sit next to me, and the teacher said because he was raised differently than some other kids. What does that mean? And the look on this man's face was, I don't want to have to explain this to a third grader. And so he just told me that some people see differences in other people, and some people don't see differences in people. And I didn't know what that meant. And so, I was just chalked it up to whatever. And I remember that moment when it hit me to where like, oh, I know what that means because I look different. And eventually I found out that he didn't want to sit next to me because he was told that he would get the disease that I have, which obviously my dark skin, and he didn't want to get it. Now I can't get mad at the kid. Now that I think back, or anytime I think back to it in third grade, I can't get mad at that kid because he didn't know what he didn't know. He was taught that. And so that's his parents' fault or whoever raised him's fault. And maybe they were raised that way. So that's generational hate, right? So there's some people, like I said earlier, there's some people in this world who have that generational hate. There's no substance to their hate. They just were taught that. If you ask them why, they don't have a why. They're screaming and yelling because their friends and family or who they're around are screaming and yelling. There's no substance to the reason why they hate, because you're just taught that. And so it's like I said, it's generational, and I think that one day it will be taken care of as far as people won't see it. But it's 2020, y'all. It's 2020, and we're still dealing with this. 2020, and we're still dealing. So anyway, so yeah, I was raised by a white dude, white man, and so but I was taught that it didn't matter. I didn't know he was a white man until third grade. I started noticing the difference in people, but it had a different effect on me. Because of how I was taught, when I seen differences in people, it made me want to go talk to them and hear where they're from and what experiences in life they've had and things like that. So throughout school, I've had a pretty good, I know there's a lot of people like, I hated school. Whatever. I didn't. I liked school. I was friends with any clique, those cliques back in the day. There's still some cliques too, but back in the day you had like the jocks, and you had what they would call the nerds and the math club and chess, and then the science kids, and then whatever, and even the emo kids or whatever. I was friends with every single group you could think of. And as I got to high school, I started seeing different, different types of people that were from different places. And so, but it didn't bother me none. I also grew up in sports. So I was around all different types of ethnic people. And so, and what's really crazy is I'm named after my uncle, and my uncle married a 100% Hispanic chick. So like a quarter of my family is all Hispanic, man. The cousins straight from Mexico. Like, and yeah, they're like cousin-in-laws and all that kind of stuff, but I grew up going to their houses and eating Hispanic food, but it wasn't Hispanic food to me. It was just food that was from a different culture. And then I wanted to know, well, how come they eat different food? And then I learned and I was taught, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And you have a newfound respect for people. So it's not only that you should just love people anyway, but you get a newfound respect for how their culture came to be what it is, or even them personally, what they personally gone through. So, and then have I experienced racism? Yes, I've experienced racism even after that, even after third grade. I've experienced racism in stores. I've experienced racism in a lot of different situations, but it doesn't automatically anger me. What it does is it saddens me, but not in a saddened way where I got my feelings hurt. It saddens me in a way that's like, this is an uneducated person, or they're choosing to be this way because of something that happened to them in their life. So if someone has a reason to be mad, then that's different. But either way, I know their hatred automatically when it's not warranted. When I haven't done anything to warrant their anger towards me and they're just automatically angry at me, I have the wherewithal to understand, oh, they're mad at something totally different. I just happen to be here. They're not mad at me. They're just mad at whatever they were mad at before that person and I started sharing the same space. So, yeah. I love tacos too, man. I love tacos. I love tacos, is what Sean says. And once again, that comes from the chat from Twitch TV, which this is originally streamed from live. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching, it was uploaded. So, and once again, any of the videos that were shown or get shown in the future, I do not own, and I will put their respective information in the description below, so you can follow them and all that. So anyway, but yeah, so my take is this. People aren't born naturally evil. People are taught evil. And then people that aren't taught anything are left to raise themselves. And then therefore they base all of their interaction with people and judge people's character by their own personal experiences with said people. Yeah. So, but my opinion on it is I love everybody, man. I do. And at this point in time, people that look like me, African American people, brown people, people darker than an average Caucasian person, have gone through it for a lot of years. Now, me personally, I've never been a quote unquote slave. Now, a slave to the system or a slave systematically as far as financial and all that kind of that might be a different, discussion for another time, but I was never whipped or chained or anything like that. So it's a different type of slavery that we're talking about. This police brutality type stuff it's 2020 and we're still dealing with it, And the NFL issues an apology for the whole kneeling thing and Kaepernick. And regardless of what you think on Kaepernick, if it's right or wrong, granted, the American flag represents different things to different people. I think the narrative, in my personal opinion, I think the narrative got hijacked and turned into the flag and the country because of the timing of when he knelt. That took over and that overshadowed the meaning of why he knelt. But because it got hijacked so fast and people's anger got fluffed up so fast by the media, that their anger was so loud that they couldn't hear what it was really for. Or some people did hear what it was really for and they didn't give a shit. because you don't disrespect America. And I get it, 100%. I love to live in this country, don't get me wrong. But that's not what the kneeling was about. But now the NFL, they issued an apology, and everyone that was yelling at Cap and all this other stuff, now they're like, well, oh, okay. Well, now you can't go back on what you originally thought, because that's what you said in your heart and you meant it. So, Cap did what he felt was right. And just like that lady with Jake Fromm's text message saying that only elite white people should be able to afford guns. They should make them more expensive, so only elite white people could afford them. Like, yo, what are we talking about? That's taught. That's taught. He wasn't provoked to say that. He said that in a text message like it's okay. That's what we're dealing with. So good luck in Buffalo, bruh. With 87% of your team African American. Good luck. You'll probably lead the league in getting sacked. We'll see. But anyway, y'all. Yeah, so because I was raised by a white man, I can see how white people, growing up, I see how white people reacted when I was in a grocery store with my dad, who I call my dad. He raised me. And then I would see how black people would look at me and him when they would see us in the store. It's a weird dynamic. But I never thought it was racism, because I was taught that people's opinions are their own opinion. And if you haven't done anything to anybody to warrant them giving you negative attention, then what they're mad at or what they're scared of or their opinion of you right off the bat has nothing to do with you. So therefore I was always just like, I would look at them back like, hi. And then, because you never want to give them a reason to justify why they feel about you how they feel about you without knowing you, right? So I'm not going to flash on somebody right when I meet them, because, especially if they already think that I'm going to do that, you don't want to confirm or justify what they already think of you. You got to be smarter than that. And then once and it sucks that you have to make the situation comfortable for them, but once you do, you end up meeting some pretty nice people that just, they don't know what they don't know. That's my point. So my last and final thought on everything. Let's see. Sean says Mike is doing BIM drone pictures. Oh, that's tight. We have a buddy named Mike who, this dude makes videos as well, and they're funny videos, but he has a drone and he makes drone videos. And anyway, again, that's in the Twitch message stream. So if you're watching this on YouTube, that's what I'm doing when I look down. I'm looking at the stream. So anyway, I love everybody, man. Regardless, I don't care how big of a house you live in, what kind of car you drive, what kind of shoes you wear, what clothes you have. Ladies, I don't care what kind of makeup you have, whatever you do to your hair to make it look like it does, I don't care. What I care about is people. We all go through the same things, just different circumstances. We're all in the same book, just different pages, man. And just love each other. That's all I believe in, is just loving each other. Regardless of when you meet somebody that's not from where you're from, doesn't it spark something in you? I want to know where they come from. Why are you the way you are? What makes you tick? When I'm in traffic, if I'm driving around and I'm in traffic, I always look at the other car and I'm like, I wonder where they're coming from, or where they're going. I wonder what their hobbies are. Because again, I said earlier, I'm a how, what, and why kid. And so I'm always asking questions, but that's my stance on it, y'all. Yeah. And there's some positivity out of it because I do see more white people coming out to march because they want to help, they want to support, and they don't try to understand because they'll never fully understand. But that doesn't mean that they can't support and empathize for what we're standing for. So that's my opinion on the whole thing. Still, there's a right way and a wrong way to do certain things as far as the rioting and all that kind of stuff. Don't lump the protesters, the peaceful protesters, into the same category as the rioters and looters. They're not the same. Okay? The rioters and looters just happen to be louder, so they're going to get more of the exposure. And that's unfortunate because they don't speak for the ones that are actually there doing peaceful things. So, shout out to the peaceful protesters. You have the right to protest and shout what you believe, and you're doing it peacefully, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. And for all the rioters and looters, you're angry. The ones that are doing it because they're angry, your anger is felt. For the ones that are just doing it to take advantage, come on, man. It's already hard enough. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, y'all, thank you to everyone who's watching this live on Twitch. Thank you to everyone who's watching this on YouTube. Again, I don't own any of the videos that were shown in this stream. I will put them, I will put all of them, all of the video information on who owns the stuff. I'll put it in the description and give them their due respect, just so maybe YouTube won't take this off. But as always, I love y'all. Love yourself so we can love others. It's your man, Dwayne Johnson, y'all. And I'm gone. Yeah.